Hello, everyone. Welcome to FREEWrite Friday. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jessica Lynn Johnson, and I'm the founder of Soaring Solo Studios, which is a company that helps to direct, develop, produce, and coach solo theater all over the world. And I work alongside fellow award-winning solo theater director and performer Heather Dowling. Together, we make up Soaring Solo. I'm a solo artist myself. I toured for over 13 years with both of my solo shows. And I also direct with the LA Women's Theater Festival and teach with them. What else can I tell you? As a director and developer, I've worked on over 200 solo shows at this point and produced hundreds. So it's definitely my passion. I have a blog on the NoHo Arts website called Soaring Solo. So you can find that and read up a bunch of tips and techniques and all kinds of things for solo artists. And I think I'll leave it at that. I'd love to hear more about you. So please say hi in the chat. Let me know where you're tuning in from, and we can just continue building our community. And the mission of Free Write Friday is really just to carve out some time each month to get a writing prompt, to think about the characters and the structure and the plot points and the themes, like all the different things that make up a solid solo show script, to come together in community, carve out 15 to 20 minutes and write and make some progress. So hopefully today will spark some things in your mind about your solo show. So today we're going to be focusing on the concept of disguising identities within the solo show. So, disguising identities meaning I come up as a coach a lot of times with clients who want to talk about loved ones or maybe past lovers or celebrity exchanges that they had or an enemy or a frenemy or a family member. Um, that there's sensitivity around talking about that person from stage, and yet it feels like an important aspect of the story. So today we're going to kind of talk about how do you navigate that. So there's obviously the legal ramifications and considerations when you're naming people from stage. I had heard that John Leguizamo, with one or maybe multiple of his shows, had some issues legally with his father, because he was talking about, his dad is a prominent featured character in at least a couple of his solo shows. So it's something to think about, when you're going to talk about people from stage. You want to know what your rights are in that regard and where you might be crossing a line. So I always say, speak to an entertainment lawyer if you have concerns about that. But then there's also the interpersonal concerns, right? It's like if you say something about a friend or your spouse or something like that, and then you worry, are they going to get offended? Are they going to feel exposed? So how do you tell your story without telling their story? It's a really sensitive and challenging topic, and there's not just like one approach, one size fits all to how to deal with that. So I'm going to give a couple of examples, three examples from the Soaring Solo community, how fellow solo artists have handled things like that in their solo shows. So my client Anzu Lawson did a one-woman show called The Rub, and in that show, is dealing with self-love and self-care and identity, and also just being in the industry. And one of her side jobs is being a masseuse, mostly for celebrities. So in her show, she portrayed several celebrities, and the way that we worked around that was, if memory serves, I don't think anybody was ever named by their names. They had nicknames that strongly indicated who they probably were, but we didn't actually name them. And so that's how she handled it. In the show Chemo Barbie with my client Heather Keller, she had a couple of different friends that when she came out, or when she was diagnosed with having breast cancer, she really started to see some of their narcissistic tendencies, a couple of these friends. And for the interpersonal reasons, she did not want to name each of these individuals. And then also pragmatically, we didn't want to have two different narcissistic characters in the show. So what we did to solve both issues was made an amalgamation character, who was given the nickname Narc. And that's the character, the name of the character throughout the show, who was just a composite of both of those people. And both of those storylines were kind of merged into one to create one character to show how those couple of friends were not supportive of her, but it was portrayed through the the lens of one character in the show. So therefore, neither party could exactly be identified through this character. And then my client Diana Varco in her show Shattered wanted to call out um, sexual abuse that had happened to her when she was young, when she was a toddler, and she didn't want to reveal who had done this transgression. So when she came to the point where you would naturally identify this person, she did this and did a beep sound, kind of a censored sound that you would hear if somebody curses on a show or something like that. And that's how she navigated, alluding to who it may be without completely saying who it was. So those are some examples creatively how people have worked around sensitive relationships. I think another thing to consider is playing with personification. So, meaning if, for example, maybe you have a critical parent and you're like, yeah, but they're probably going to come see the show. So I don't want to play my mom or dad on stage, saying all this horrible stuff to me and outing them. Well, you could play an inner critic, a personification of a negative voice that comes into your sphere, and you don't name it to anyone in particular, but you have this character, this personified inner critic that just represents the type of critical behavior that your parents exemplified without outing them. So, those are some things to consider for how to address this topic. So, what I want you to do, I'm going to give you 8 minutes, and I just want you to think of who comes to mind when you think about writing your solo show and you think about the different people or relationships you want to talk about. You can use this time to either write about the maybe anxiety or fears that come up when you consider writing about that person, or maybe you take a stab at writing about it in an outside of the box sort of way that I just exemplified with the people in this community and how they've gone about it. So whatever comes up for you is fine, but I want you to start to think about that and write about it for the next 8 minutes. So let me see if I can get the timer up here for you so you can see that. Give me just a moment. 1 second. My internet is being a little slow. Okay. Okay, great. So happy writing. Just about a minute left. Okay, go ahead and wrap up your writing, please. And I did think of one other way I would talk about handling this issue of, talking about celebrities or people in your life or whatever. Um, and it's what I did in my second solo show, Z. I changed the protagonist's name, who is inspired by me, from Jessica to Tessa. And I allowed her to be a character that was very much inspired by me, but also quite different from me. And then that kind of carried throughout the show. I took a lot of different fictional liberties, fictitious liberties throughout the show, and changed everyone's names with the exception of one character who gave me complete permission to use his name. He's a reverend who was featured in the show, and he was more than happy to be featured as himself. But beyond that, I changed everybody's names in the show and also changed quite a bit of the storyline and plot points. So in the end, my show Z ended up being a combination of both fiction and nonfiction. So that's something to consider too. And you don't necessarily have to apply that to the entire show, but maybe with a particular character relationship that you're really trying to protect, you change some of the identifying features, like maybe instead of they're your hairdresser, they're instead your handyman, or the city that they're from changes, or something that would be identifying and not necessarily crucial to the plot. You can change that as well. So just some other things to think about. So if you look in the chat, you'll see that I put several announcements happening in the Soaring Solo and Solo Theater communities. So I'll just take a quick minute before we wrap to go over these things. So I teach in a free 90-minute class, which I've been teaching for many, many years now. It's called The Art of Creating the One-Person Show. It's free, 90 minutes. The next one is happening on Saturday, May 16th at 10 a.m. Pacific, noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern. Just sign up the way that you did for today. You go to my website and go to under free stuff at soaringSoloStudios.com, and you'll get the Zoom link. And you can just come to class and get a writing prompt and share or not share. Or if you want to bring something to class that you wrote outside of class, you can do that as well. And then if you're ever curious about booking an initial consultation with either myself or with Heather, you can email me at soaringsoloartist@gmail.com, or just fill out one of the contact forms on my website. Initial consults are $69 for an hour on Zoom. We will cover a ton of ground. So that's a great way to get started and get some professional guidance on your solo theater journey. I also produce a series called Revealed, and Revealed is a virtual reading series, which is a really good stake to put in the ground, a good next step for you to work toward. Basically, you do a virtual reading of your show, which we co-produce with you, and we then do a robust conversation Q&A with the audience after you read your script on Zoom and figure out what is working, what could be improved upon before you put your show on stage. So if you're interested in talking about Revealed and maybe looking ahead and picking a date with us to be a part of that, we work with your schedule and ours to find a date that works for everybody. Pop me an email and we'll talk about it. And then if you enjoyed today and you want to come back, the next Free Write Friday is happening on June 26th at 11 a.m. Pacific, 1 Central and 2 p.m. Eastern. And again, just sign up the same way you did today. And then my YouTube channel, Soaring Solo Studios, if you look for that on YouTube, has hundreds of videos, free content, both from myself, from Heather, from solo artists within the community who have tips to share. So be sure to look that up. I've got lots and lots and lots of writing prompts on there. So that will be very helpful if you're feeling any sense of writer's block or just need some inspiration for your writing. And then the festival circuit is something that I highly recommend, no matter where you're at in your solo theater journey. It's a really wonderful way to have some built-in structure and support by being a part of a festival, have built-in deadlines, a stake in the ground that is meaningful, give you exposure to things like reviewers and theater critics, award nominations and wins. Audience testimonials, and also introducing your work to audiences that you might not otherwise have exposure to because they're not your personal friends, family, and network. So festivals have lots and lots of different benefits like that. So some festivals that I would love to highlight today. There's the 30 minutes or less festival, and they're actually doing a spin-off of that called the 30 to 60 minutes or less festival in July. So if you're interested in learning about that, that's going to be in Hollywood. I work alongside Matthew Quinn, who's the executive producer on festivals like this. So you can pop me an email and I'll introduce you to Matthew and you can ask him about next steps. There's also the Binge Fringe Festival at the Santa Monica Playhouse, which has been around for many years now. It's a curated competitive festival. They pay you a small stipend if you're selected, and it's a really beautiful theater. So they are taking submissions right now through, I want to say like July, perhaps, but definitely check their website, the Santa Monica Playhouse website, for more information. There's the New York City Fringe Festival, which is also known as the Frigid Festival. I just had a couple of clients do that. I think it was last month. And that's a really wonderful festival, also curated and competitive. The Orlando Fringe Festival has been around for over 30 years. It's a wonderful festival. United Solo in New York City has a spring and a fall showcase. It's an expensive festival, but it does give you an off-Broadway credit, and it's on 42nd Street Theater Row. So it's very attractive for those reasons. There's the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, which I'm sure you've all heard of. It's like the mothership of all the fringes. It's huge. The Philly Fringe Festival, the Hollywood Fringe Festival, which Soaring Solo has 14 productions going up in the Hollywood Fringe Festival this summer. So if you are in Hollywood or going to visit Hollywood, I would suggest binging as much solo theater as you can. It's a great way to learn. And then the LA Women's Theater Festival, which I mentioned at the beginning of the call, that I'm been affiliated with for quite a long time now. They're really wonderful as well. And I'll finish by shouting out the Soaring Solo Stars series, which I co-produce with Heather over at the Zephyr Theater, and that'll be happening in West Hollywood in the late fall, early winter. If you're interested in submitting to that, pop me an email and we'll talk about those details. And then my last announcement is Solo Up. Solo Up is Heather's class that she teaches in person in LA. So if you happen to be in LA on Saturday, May 16th from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Pacific, we have 4 spots left in that in-person class. It's a wonderful way to meet other solo artists, get up on your feet, read an excerpt or improv a piece from your solo show and get Heather's incredible feedback. She's a wonderful solo theater coach, and anywhere in your process, whether you're already touring and you're just looking to polish your craft, or if you're at the very beginning stages trying to figure out what your show's even about, either way, Heather can meet you where you're at. So that's it for today. So thank you so much, everyone. I will copy and paste these announcements and email them over to you so that you have them, but I just wanted to talk you through them as well. I hope you have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your day and a wonderful weekend. And thank you so much for joining me today. Bye, everyone.